conjunction of spheres is one of the key, and perhaps can be argued one of the most important parts of the lore of the Witcher universe, shaping the continent into what it is today, and forever changing the world. Without it, the world of the Witcher would altogether be a very different place, and none of the stories we have of it would exist. But for something so vital and integral to the lore of the universe, there is also a lot we don't know about it, and it is still very much a mystery during the short stories in the saga. In brief, the conjunction of spheres was a cataclysm which affected the whole world of The Witcher, as well as the wider multiverse, which occurred around 1,500 years before the events of the novels. The events trapped many creatures in different dimensions than their own, including the likes of ghouls, vampires, and many of the monsters we see during the events of the short stories and the saga. What stood out about these monsters is they very much did not fit in the ecology of their new home, with some without a niche or place in the native ecology, which in truth made the problem worse. Rifts in the world were created by the collision of many different realms. Before the conjunction, the other races that inhabited the continent were gnomes, dwarves, and later on elves, with them becoming known as the elder races. The conjunction filled their world with hundreds of creatures of all shapes and sizes, but something else also came through the rift as well, a magical force that came to be known as chaos or magic. Before the conjunction of spheres, magic did exist to some extent in a different form, with very few species having affinity for it, the elves being one of them. But after the conjunction, a new power was born. The magic sorcerers and sorceresses draw on, unable to manipulate the force of magic, and with little preparation to fight the monsters that came through the conjunction of the different realms. The gnomes, dwarves, and elves, as well as many other displaced races, such as the Vran and halflings, and the first humans, were plunged into a strange and dangerous and uncertain time of conflict, which lasted for many generations. It was during this time elves, say humans, first appeared, their own world having been destroyed. Nordling humans settled on the continent many hundreds of years after that, which was later dubbed the First Landing. It's uncertain whether or not the two original human civilizations were extinct by the time the Nordlings had arrived on the continent. But what physically was the conjunction? Well, these spheres were effectively other planets or worlds, depending on the form of media from across the multiverse, that converged with one another. In the books and games, it's implied that the event itself saw many large portals opening up, joining these different worlds together, in effect merging the different realities. The why, no one seems to know. It could have been a magical natural disaster, or a deliberate act by some powerful unknown entity. There exist some rare people like Ciri and some elven sages who had the power to travel between the worlds. In the book, Ciri ends up on Earth at one point in her travels, and in the games it is implied that she spent some time in a dystopian future similar to that of the lore of the cyberpunk tabletop games. All of this suggests that humans could have been brought from our own world to the Witcher world, the elder races whose homes had forever been changed. The new strange races who had found themselves in this new world, filled with numerous monsters outside of their natural habitat, created a bloody and grim new reality. A solution was required, and that solution was the creation of the Witchers, warriors created and born to kill the monsters that threatened the land with the use of steel, silver, and magic. But while many point to monsters as being the worst effect of the conjunction, not all would agree with that sentiment, especially the elves, who would argue the coming of humankind would in the long term have a much larger and more devastating impact than that of the monsters. When the humans crossed over from their own world to the continent during the conjunction, they brought with them all their worst aspects, most of all their desire for conquest at the detriment to the native peoples of the world. But the world is not black and white, and there is two sides to every coin. While the humans did conquer and spread across the continent, the fundamental differences between the humans and the elder races should also be considered. The significantly shorter lifespan of humans and the rate in which they could breed helped fuel their spread and the speed of their conquest, something the elder races were not used to. In truth, the elder races did cast their eyes down at humans, looking down upon them, meaning many humans saw the elder races as arrogant. But given the speed at which the human race grew and how fast it spread, it eventually became too much for the elder races to hold back. It is such the scale and numbers humans swelled to. Before long, the number of the elder races began to dwindle, and the humans became the dominant race to inhabit the continent. The conjunction of spheres changed, shaped, and created the world of The Witcher that we know. But a looming question many have throughout the saga is, could it happen again? The truth is that it does seem possible. In the books, there are some hints and prophecies that suggest it is possible and might very well happen. For example, in the short story The Lesser Evil, from the first collection of short stories, The Last Wish, the sorcerer Dregobor is so intent on killing Renfri because of the apparent curse of the Black Sun, which comes from an inscription on the ruins of early human civilization upon their stone structures. It was prophesied by a mage that an eclipse foretold the end of the human civilization in the hands of 60 girls born during the Black Sun, or eclipse, which would turn them into cruel creatures who would bring about the return of the goddess Lilith and the end of the world. Geralt of Rivia rejects the idea, dismissing the concept of the curse as simply girls being born under an eclipse. But eclipses could also be seen as a conjunction of planetary bodies. You also then have Ithlinne's prophecy, an element at the heart of the Witcher stories and Geralt and Ciri's relationship, which at its core is about a future cataclysm involving a new sun. While the books themselves don't provide answers about the prophecies, it is implied that one of elder blood, perhaps Ciri or one of her descendants in the future, could stop the coming White Frost by creating a new conjunction, leading the peoples of the continent to a new world away from the coming frost. The truth is, Andrzej Sapkowski left a lot of the details of the prophecies intentionally vague for a reason. His focus was more on telling the story than the idea of fulfilling prophecy. It's why I enjoy the fact that Witcher games are set after the books and expand upon the lore and detail of these concepts more than the books do, and give answers even if they're not from the author themselves and not canon to the books. But ultimately, I enjoy how vague mysteries such as the conjunction of spheres and the fact we don't have clear answers, as it makes the world feel bigger and in a sense real. Not every aspect of lore needs answers to it.